Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Brittany here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about breastfeeding, specifically giving tips to new mommies based off of what I've learned in my 3 months of being a mom. If you are pregnant or you are a new mom and you can breastfeed, I would highly recommend doing so. Breast milk is like magic. It can do everything. It can heal a baby's scratch on their face. Like my baby had a rash all over and I put breast milk all over his body, the rash went away. The breast milk can adapt to whatever the baby needs. So if the baby gets sick or whatever, your breast milk will change its formula so that the baby will get special nutrients and antibodies and things that he or she needs. And those are things that formula just can't do. I know some women struggle and some women just can't do it, but if you can, I'd highly recommend it because it's so great for the baby and it's really great for you. It's great for helping you lose weight as well. There are not very many new moms that I know of that don't want to lose that baby belly after baby's out. Okay, so the first tip that I want to give is to take a breastfeeding class if you can. If you can't, that's okay. I took a breastfeeding class and I took it at a hospital. It was a different hospital than the one I delivered at, and that's because it was cheaper at another hospital. So if you didn't know, because I didn't know, but if you don't know, you can always go to another hospital if your hospital or any breastfeeding classes in your area are too expensive for you, or you just don't want to pay that much. You can get the same information for cheaper if you just shop around. If you cannot afford breastfeeding classes at all, or if there are no breastfeeding classes in your area that you really want to go to, you can actually watch these YouTube videos, because I watched so many breastfeeding YouTube videos, and then by the time I went to class, everything that they talked about I already knew. There wasn't too much that I learned that I didn't already know. It was great to be able to ask questions because you had one-on-one, well, I had one-on-one time with a lactation specialist. Other than that, YouTube can teach you everything that you need to know if you're willing to do the research and spend a few hours looking at breastfeeding videos. Now, a lot of moms don't want to breastfeed because it hurts. And if breastfeeding hurts, you're doing it wrong. So to make sure that breastfeeding is not hurting for you, you have to make sure that your latch is correct. As long as you can get that deep latch, it won't hurt at all. Now, the first few days, there will be some nipple sensitivity because especially if you're a first-time mom, you've never breastfed before. This is new to have this baby always suckling at your breast, and they're going to be tender, but that only lasts for a few days. But if your baby's latch is not correct, it's going to hurt. So at the top of your mouth, you feel like the hard part with your tongue, and if you push your tongue all the way to the back of your mouth, you can feel that it's kind of a soft palate back there. Well, you want your nipple to be where that soft palate is when you put the nipple in the baby's mouth. Otherwise, it's going to hurt because there's a hard palate there just mashing against your nipple constantly, and that doesn't feel good. So when it's time to feed your baby, you just place your nipple like right on their lip, or like right under their nose, and they'll open really wide, and you just shove it in there. Literally, you shove it in there. They shouldn't be sucking on it like a straw, like in a circle shape. Their mouth should be wide open, and it should be more like a You'll see their jaw going down because that breast is all the way in their mouth, filling up their mouth, and they're just swallowing as the milk squirts out down their throat. It's not even like a taste on the tongue thing. It's like just send it right down the hatch. Now, if you are experiencing sore nipples and you're breastfeeding, I would recommend the lanolin cream, or the nipple cream, the nipple butter. The cream that I use, I'll put it down below somewhere, but it is lanolin free. So if you are allergic to lanolin, or if you're a vegan and you don't want to use lanolin, you can definitely use the lanolin free brand like me. I'm not allergic and I'm not vegan. It was just what my husband bought me. Whenever my nipples start to feel tender or sore, I just go ahead and put it on, and it usually feels better within the same day. Okay, now for your comfort as well, you want to make sure that you have the right position that you're holding your baby in while you're breastfeeding, because breastfeeding can put a lot of strain on your back. It can also put a lot of strain on your arms because you're holding the baby the whole time. So definitely get a boppy pillow if you don't have one. It's just a round shaped pillow. This is my boppy right here, and I use this especially when my baby was a newborn. Not so much now, but when he was really small, I definitely used my boppy for support while I was breastfeeding. You want to make sure that you have pillows all around you, that you're comfortable, because that's really going to make a difference. If you're uncomfortable every time you breastfeed, you're really not going to want to do it. So make sure that you're comfortable, that you're in a good position. Put your boppy around your lap, and then you cradle your baby. Now, You can cradle your baby and hold him in the like crossbody position where you have your arm under his back and his head is resting in like the crook of your arm, and he's feeding that way. You can do the football position, which was my favorite when my baby was first born because it was kind of uncomfortable. Like I said, it's trying to hunch over, get the breast in the mouth. There was a lot of, it felt like a lot of moving parts. It was a lot going on because it was new. I'd never breastfed and I was learning. So the easiest way for me was the football position, and that's where you hold the baby's head in the palm of your hand and their body rests on your arm, and you just hold them like a football right here and they'll latch on. The third position is, what's it? I said crossbody, the football, and side lane. I feel more comfortable doing side lane with my baby now than I did when he was really small, because my baby has a little more strength in his back and his neck and his shoulders and everything, and so he can kind of support himself, and I don't even have to hold him. I can just lay him on his side on the bed, I lay on my side, and then just shove the booby in his mouth, and he's just, you know, drinking his milk while I'm doing my thing. I don't really do it often, to be honest, but in the morning time, if I'm super tired because he kept me up at night or we had a rough night or something, and it's morning, he's ready to feed and I'm still tired, I can get an extra like 5 to 10 minutes of sleep. Not really sleeping, like half sleep. You don't really get a full deep sleep when you have a newborn baby. And when I first started breastfeeding, just like most first time moms, you're like, how do I know that the baby's getting enough milk? How do I know that the milk is coming out? Now I feel a letdown as I'm feeding, so I know that my baby's getting milk. Also, I know just based on the sounds and the movement of his jaw and everything, you listen for like the sound, and if you hear that, you know they're swallowing milk and it's going down. You want to hear that. You don't want to hear like if you hear that, it's probably hurting already, because they're not sucking. They don't have that deep latch, so you definitely want to hear for that little caw 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 sound. Also, their poops and their pees, like you'll know based on how often they're pooping and they're peeing when they're first born. I really honestly, I can't remember. My midwife told me, and I'm past that stage, so I really don't remember what it was, but they'll tell you like, oh, you should be having this many pees and this many poos within a day, and that's how you know that the baby's getting enough. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, I've read that some people believe that there is a such thing and some people don't. I'm talking about foremilk and hind milk. Now, when the baby first starts suckling, they're getting the foremilk, and you want them to continue sucking and empty out the breast, and they'll get the hind milk, which has more fat and stuff in it to fill up the baby and to help them to grow. So make sure that when you feed the baby, before you offer them the next breast, that you try to get as much milk out as you can. Now, when my pediatrician first told me that, I was like, how do I know that the breast is empty? Now I know just because my baby will unlatch. And if he's still crying, I know he's still hungry, so I put him on the other breast, and usually he just, he gets right on, so I know he still wants more. But in those early days, I was like, how do I know that it's empty? But that's how you can tell. Like, if your baby's drinking and he pulls off or he's done, then that breast is probably empty, or he's just full, and you don't want to force him to drink more than what he wants. Also, another thing my pediatrician told me was the color of their poo should be that bright yellow, like not bright, it's a mustardy yellow and kind of seedy. If you see poops like that, then you know that the baby is getting enough of the hind milk, which leads me to my next tip or bit of information, which is plugs. Plugged milk ducts. You want to try to empty out your breast, and not only just for the baby to get all the nutrients that he or she needs, but also for your comfort. Because if you get a plugged milk duct, honey, you will be upset. I've had several and they do not feel good. When you get a plugged milk duct, it feels like there's a tiny rock in your breast, and if you don't get it out, it gets bigger, it gets harder. It is very tender. It hurts, especially if you get them where I tend to seem to keep getting them is under the boob or right near the armpit. Oh my gosh, you can barely even lift your arm. It hurts so bad. The best way to get them out is, of course, by feeding the baby. He's gonna have to suck and drink that milk out. And for me, I was like, I'm feeding my baby. He's emptying the breast and it's still here, like the whole breast. My breast would feel like a freaking pancake. It would just be soft and mushy, but that one spot was still hard like a rock because he hadn't quite gotten it out yet. Some tips that I have learned and read online, and I've tried them out myself, they did help out, was when you get a plugged milk duct, you have to put a warm compress on it. You have to apply some heat. So you can either put a warm compress or you can take a hot shower. You have to massage the area, and I try to massage it as I'm feeding him, depending on the location of the plugged duct. Sometimes you can't massage that thing out because it's in a weird spot and you're trying to hold your baby, and I have to support my boob. Usually when I'm breastfeeding, both hands are already in use because I have to hold up my boob and I'm holding my baby, and so it's hard for me to massage it out. So I tried something called dangle feeding, and that's where you lay the baby on the bed or on the floor, on a blanket, wherever, and you get on all fours and you let your breast dangle over the baby and feed him or her that way, so that gravity can help to pull that plugged milk duct down. I put on my Snapchat when I was desperate, I was like, what do I do? All my mommy friends, like, what do I do? And one of my friends told me to use a comb, to take a comb and comb it over the plug, and that would help to break it up, loosen it up, and send the milk on down. That's what actually worked for me. I've also read about this castor oil thing where you soak a rag in castor oil and you put it on your breast, and some people say they use cabbage leaf, but I've also heard that cabbage leaf can like dry your milk up when you no longer want to breastfeed. So I don't know about trying the cabbage, but to each his own. Also, lining the chin up, line up the baby's chin with where the plug duct is, and that's supposed to help to get it out as well. I tried that. I really don't know if that made a difference or not because the plug didn't go away right away. So I tried so many things. I don't know what exactly it was. I think it was the comb, but you definitely want to make sure that you're getting those plugs out, because if you don't, you can develop an infection called mastitis, which will be a pain. Drinking, you want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water so that you can have an adequate supply. Every time I pump, I try to drink some water, or even when I feed the baby, I just try to drink water just so that I can continuously keep my body hydrated and I can easily produce milk. So the last thing I'm going to talk about in regards to breastfeeding is pumping. Okay, so the first thing I'll tell you is do not sterilize the tube. I have a Medela pump. I don't know what other kinds of pumps, how they work or whatever, but the Medela pump, you know, it comes with the bottle, it comes with the little sucky instrument thing, and then the part that opens up that you put over your breast, and the tube, of course, that you have to attach. Don't sterilize it. Okay, don't sterilize it. I did that and mine melted, so I had to get more tubes because I melted mine. But I pump once a day because I'm not a working mommy. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and so my baby usually drinks from my breast all the time. The only time he drinks from a bottle is at night. My husband and I, we switch we switch shifts. My husband will take the first feeding because he wakes up twice for feeding at night, once at 1:30 and then once at like around 5:30, 6 o'clock. And at the 1:30 feeding, my husband will feed him from a bottle, and then the second one I will feed him myself just from the breast. So for that first feeding, that's the main reason why I pump, and for if we have to go somewhere and be out, and I'd rather him have a bottle than me have to breastfeed him. Usually when my husband's giving the baby his 1:30 feeding, I'll just get up as well and I'll pump my milk. So pretty much as quickly as my husband uses from the supply, I'm replacing. I don't have a big huge stash. I have just a little bit of milk. I'll say like maybe 20 bags or so of milk, maybe 25, something like that, and that's what we use. I had one of you guys reach out to me on one of my previous videos and ask me about how long it takes to pump. It takes me anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to pump one breast. I do have the nursing bra where you can strap it on, you can put both pumps in there and you can pump both breasts at one time, but I never really need to do that because I feed my baby from the breast so often. I don't want to empty out my breast and then he wakes up for a feeding and there's very little in my breast. So I only pump one breast at a time, and that takes about, like I said, 10 to 20 minutes depending on how full the breast is. Usually I pump about 5 ounces from each breast. So there was one time I pumped 8 ounces out of one breast. My breast was huge. It was so hard. It was like a deformed rock. So that's pretty much all the information I have about breastfeeding. That's everything that I know. So I hope that you guys liked this video. I hope that you learned something and that it was helpful. And if it was, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below to let me know that you liked it. And I will see you in the next video.